So today's Halloween, as I hope you know, and I was watching everybody on the street before I came in today, in their costumes and everything. I myself am wearing orange and black in honor of that. Plus, Christine brought us a pumpkin, which I made sure you can see here behind us. I'm going to give a Halloween-inspired Teisho. You'll see whether it's successful or not. First of all, this time of year in the Celtic culture, which gave rise partly to the celebration today, was called a thin time. The time of year, I'm not sure exactly why, maybe because of harvest, maybe because it was getting colder and darker, when the line between the spirit world and the material world was thinner, and you could pass more easily between. That's where you get all the witches and goblins and ghosts, all that stuff that you see in the costumes, etc. Now, the only thing we'd say about that, Zen would certainly say, every time is a thin time. There's no big veil, there's no great distance, there's no separation between any of the worlds, if you want to even refer to them as worlds. There's just the full dimension of here and now. And of course, in the Catholic Church, we brought the feast of all the saints to this time of year to express that, and then All Souls likewise. But all these worlds are interconnected all the time, and our practice should help us to interpenetrate them or wake up to their interpenetration more readily and more constantly, enthusiastically even. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is this and this is of course more recent, recent decades, but dressing up in costumes. I'm sure, I hope we've all had fun with that in earlier years, or maybe even still. But there's a deep truth there on several levels about expressing who we are. So when you choose a costume, you're probably expressing something about yourself on several levels. First of all, of course, there's the shadow level, the integration, as Jung would say, of all the shadow sides of ourselves. You may be expressing some hidden part of yourself that needs to come out, and will come out in your practice as well, and in your life, hopefully. But a costume could be a clever way or a less threatening way to express, or maybe not so, maybe threatening. Who knows? Depends what it is that you use to recognize and honor, hopefully integrate, some part of yourself that is too often in our neat little safe ego categories pushed to the side. And of course, any spiritual practice as well as psychological practice will help us to open up those dimensions. The other part is, and this is more spiritual, more properly spiritual, and certainly more Zen, is the fact that whoever we might dress up at, it might be as some other profession or some other historical figure, whatever it might be, we are those people. I mean, we're not just our shadow self, but we're everybody. I just gave a Teisho a week or so ago, right, on the fact that we are the universe, that we're all people of all time. So if we represent that in a costume, it's really just acknowledging deeply, on the deepest level, that we are all that. We are all they, all them, all those people, because there's just really one. You can call it the Buddha, you can call it Christ, etc., but it's all. We are all those. This recurring doctrine of reincarnation, at the minimal level, the truth of that is that we really are all those people of all those times, in a very deep spiritual way, however it works. But call it the communion of saints, call it the fact that we're all just the Christ, all just the Buddha. So you can't put on a costume that's not you, somewhere and on some level. And those things can help us to wake up to that, in their own modest way. But let's look a little bit more deeply at these different levels of our being that can be expressed here through the through the Halloween things that are evoked. Of course, they're ghosts. They're ghosts. I think there was a little poll on MSN online today about how many people believe in ghosts, and about 40% did and 40% didn't. This is not up for debate. So, on the level of actual ghosts that are human spirits that are trapped for some reason, I won't go in. That's a whole talk in itself. So, I refer you to the wonderful book that's both entertaining and moving, from personal experience of my friend Gary Jansen, called Holy Ghosts. I recommend that. I was just rereading a lot of it today in preparation for this. But what's also interesting is, as you may know, in the Buddhist cosmology there are 6 levels of existence, and the lowest level is the hells. But the next level up, before you get to animals and humans, as you may know, is called the hungry ghosts, pretai in Sanskrit. So these are, well, ghosts because they're only a shadow of what we could be or should be, and they're hungry because they're insatiable and nothing can satisfy them, which probably describes a lot of us a lot of the time, or at least at certain times of our lives. It's kind of where we start. We're always looking for something to fill us up, whether it's sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever it is. And it's only when we realize that we already have and are everything that we can let go of that. The ego doesn't have to constantly be reaffirming itself and satisfy, its cravings. So the point of a hungry ghost, as you've probably seen the depictions of them there, skinny necks, ghost-like figures with big bellies, because nothing can fill them there. They're empty, insatiable. Now, what are they exactly? Are these actual beings? And you have different schools of Buddhism will actually say different things about this. But I was actually looking at the Shirangama Sutra today, and they have a presentation of all these different levels. And according to that particular cosmology or mythology, if you will, lowest level are the hells, and of course they're temporary, and that, as you would expect, the worst possible people. But as you work out your karma on that level, you then rise to be a hungry ghost. And when you fulfilled your karma on that level, then you come up to be an animal. And when you work through that, then you... So I was really... a hungry ghost? Are animals just hungry ghosts that have worked out their karma? And is being an animal a lesser fate for someone who has to work out some karma that, on a human level? Really? So, as I was puzzling over this, I was happy to realize, and I actually read this, but it was my own conclusion as well, that in Zen, and at least in this, all of these are states of consciousness that are open to anybody, anytime, for better or for worse. And so when you're expressing, goblins and ghosts and all this stuff, in a costume, that's also expressing certain states of consciousness and states of reality in that sense, since everything is mind and that. And even in our Catholic theology, we've been saying more and more, hell is a state of mind, not a place. Well, Buddhism would certainly agree. And that's, everything is what are you working through interiorly? And then the cosmology is somehow, and it's mysterious, I admit, connected to that, or ancillary to that, and subservient to that. So in other words, we make our own hell, and hopefully you don't spend much time there, or not. And we can be hungry ghosts, easily enough, and we work through that. And here, this is the good part, the totem. We are all these animals, but it's not bad at all. It's not bad karma. It's actually part of who we are, as the Native Americans and many others have noticed. So, when you get dressed up as an animal, well, great, because you are. And it's good. That's part of who we are. There's a wonderful koan, the 85th one in the Blue Cliff Record, where a monk goes up to a hermit on a mountaintop and says, "So if we met a tiger up here, what would we do?" And the hermit just roared. And of course they both laughed, because they did meet a tiger. He was the tiger. Well, so are you. So are we. It can be fierce, but it doesn't have to be bad. You can be the Manjushri's lion, the golden-haired lion. You can be the elephant of Samantabhadra, representing enlightenment. The dragon, of course, representing all of this. All of that is part of everyone. So that's why I say it's just a state of consciousness as well as a state of being. It's clearer here how the two go together. For everyone, and that's part of who we are. So you have hell-hungry ghosts, animals, humans. Then you have, it's a little unsure. You have asuras and devas. Devas are the gods, more like godlike figures, bodhisattvas and things like that, really. But the others are. It varies in the metaphysics what these beings are, these asuras. They tend to be, have their vices as well, and it says they're jealous of the gods, and they argue and have quarrels. So in some places they're identified with the nagas, the dragon, snakes, etc., that are part of the kundalini and the dragon when it's finally integrated. So it's really interesting. The best representation of it of all, though, was one I discovered. I was blown away by it. I think I mentioned it before in 2010 when I visited Cambodia and Angkor Wat. But you can see online, they have a huge stone relief of it at Angkor Wat. But it's the churning of the sea of milk. Have you heard of that? It's a representation of the life, consciousness, if you will. And it's the snake is what they're devas on one side and the asuras on the other, and they're pulling back and forth, kind of like churning the sea of milk, churning reality with Vishnu in the middle, and they're on a cosmic turtle, and they're pushing it back and forth. And ultimately, there are all sorts of stories about it and all sorts of, of denouement and all this stuff. But the best representation to my mind is that the devas just about win out. They're slightly more victorious or slightly more numerous, but the point is what creates, and what they're creating is amrita, the elixir of immortality, the elixir of life, of joy, ambrosia, amrita. In other words, and this is where the shadow stuff comes in again, the battling of these different forces is what life is. And ultimately they create an elixir of immortality. So when you integrate all of that stuff, which can seem to be bad, like the shadow, it's not really bad, it's just like the animal aggressivity and all of that, it's just part of life. And when it's really integrated, balanced, then you have the elixir of life, and the elixir of immortality, in fact. So I think that's fantastic. I think that's the best way of looking at it. And all this is part of the realm of desire, and then there's the realm of form and formlessness that I talked about last week, if you recall. So all this is on a relatively lower level, but it's all trying to be expressed, in a lot of these Halloween costumes, but it's all stuff that's going on constantly in life and consciousness. So it's really important to try and integrate all these levels and to be aware of them as you go up the chain, and realize that they're all part of the process. And then how you're still. And I think it's really important to realize, and this has been stated by others, but I think it's really, really important. But on all these levels, remember what we said, everything is everything, and everything is the Buddha. That's pure Zen. Everything is the Buddha. And we would say too, everything is Christ, everything is the body of Christ. So even on the lowest levels, lowest according to some measures, but it's all relative and it's all dualistic. It's Christ. Christ is there. In the least of these, in the most suffering. How can he not be present in hell, even, you would say? I mean, really? Certainly everything is us, everything is Christ, everything is one. So there's no place in which total reality is not present in any of this, which is very encouraging, is it not? To realize that it's all in the embrace of ultimate reality. And it's precisely because ultimate reality, however you conceptualize it, however you define it, is there, that it can be integrated and harmonized and transfigured and be part of the elixir that's generated, Holy Grail, of the blood, That's what it's included. Going down into the depths, of whatever you want to call it, sin or whatever, and then raising it up. Going down into the depths of Mara and rising up to enlightenment. So you shouldn't be scared, on Halloween of anything, really. It's just you.